Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Soundbite, where we talk about all things U.S. immigration. I am Carol Williams, Managing Attorney at Williams Immigration. So, I like to dive right in on our Monday morning lives. And the first thing I want to talk to you all about is the weighted H-1B lottery. So, there's a new rule. It is effective February 27th of this year, 2026. So it is effective just in time for our new cap season. We knew this was coming out. Here it is. So essentially, the change is that the more complex and the higher the wage for a position that is being entered into the lottery, the more times that individual has to be chosen in the lottery. So essentially, if you are at a level 1 role, level 1 in terms of Department of Labor wages, you get 1 shot at the lottery. If you're level 2, you get 2 shots. If you're level 3, you get 3 shots at the lottery. If you're level 4, you get 4 shots within the lottery. This weighted rule was done specifically to give those roles, which the government thought were more complex, a more favorable position within the lottery. So this will make the lottery harder to get chosen, for not impossible, but harder for those folks to get chosen who are in level 1 or entry level positions. So we'll see what happens with this. We're only in beginning of January, so lottery doesn't happen until March. So we'll see what this looks like. This will require a new form for us to fill out in terms of getting people entered into the lottery, because we'll have to disclose the Department of Labor code, whether it's level 1, 2, 3, or 4. So there are some things that are going to have to be done behind the scenes and rolled out to us by way of making sure that we can provide this now required information for what is now the weighted H-1B lottery. So I'll keep you updated on that. Also with H-1Bs, the $100,000 fee for those new H-1Bs that are outside of the U.S. when they just filed, that fee is still in place. I know colleagues have been receiving RFEs for the payment of those fees when the government believes that the fee should have been paid. Lawsuits are still winding their way through the federal court system. One in particular is now at the appellate phase after the district court ruled in favor of the government. So we'll see what happens with that one. That's sort of the first one to wind its way through the system. There are at least, I think, 2 more coming up behind it in the system. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get some sort of clarity on this before cap season, or I guess we're in cap season, so sort of before we have to enter people into the lottery. But I will keep you updated on that as well. The next thing I want to talk to you about is it dropped Friday, because government took a little break, I guess, and now we're back to our Friday surprises. The increase in premium processing fees. So on the employment side of U.S. immigration, there are a host of applications that can be processed faster if a premium processing fee is paid. So those premium processing fees for non-immigrant applications, so your H's, your E's, your L's, your O's, your TNs, if they're processed in country, that premium processing fee was $2,805, and now the increase they're saying due to inflation is $2,965. The fees, that same $2,805 fee also jumps to $2,965 for the green card fee. So your EBs 1s, 2s, and 3s will be subject to this new fee as well. And then the student fees, I call them the student fees, the exchange or extension to F1, J1, and M1. That also includes the F2s and the M2s and the J2s are dependent folks. Those fees were $1,965. They will now go up to $1,780 for premium processing. And these fees are all going up as of March 1. So they are not yet in play. We're still using sort of the current now / old fees, but the new fees will come into play March 1, 2026. And remember, all government filing fees for USCIS need to be paid now via credit card or ACH using the USCIS specific form. And that form can be found on their website. The next thing I want to talk to y'all about is the postmark rule, which came out or really took effect last month, December 24. And the postmark rule is not from USCIS, it's not from DHS, it is from the US Postal Service. So the US Postal Service has changed the way it is now postmarking mail. And you may be wondering, Carol, why are you telling me this? Hold on a second, and I will tell you why I'm telling you this. So now the new rule is that mail is not considered postmarked the day you drop it off. It is considered postmarked the day the US Postal Service does something with the mail. So when it is processed, that is the day it will be postmarked. So you could drop something off on a Monday and it may not actually be processed until, let's say, Friday. So that means your postmark is going to be Friday. Unless you go into the post office and specifically ask at the desk for a postmark. But many of us don't do that, right? Many of us just drop it off, assume it gets postmarked, and we move along. Sort of in our daily goings on with the post office. This becomes crucial when we're talking about not just USCIS things, but all things legal that need to have a postmark, by a certain day. So this comes into context often with H-1B cap filings. Usually it is cases have to be postmarked by June 30th. That's what it has been in the past. And the agency has said that they will look at the postmark provided by the mailing entity. So whether that's a private mailing service or whether that is the US Postal Service. If it's the US Postal Service in the past, it's been the day that you've dropped it off because that's the day that they stamp it and they keep it rolling through their system. Well, if you drop it off, but they don't process it or stamp it for several days later, even though you dropped it off, you may not meet the postmark rule. So do with that information what you will. File a week, or two earlier. Take them in by hand and ask for them. Have someone stand at the desk and ask for manual postmarks. Use a private mailing service, but just be aware that just because you drop something off on a Monday to the US Postal Service no longer means that it's going to be postmarked on that Monday. And just be aware of what that means in your individual circumstances. So if you need a specific postmark date, you may not get it if you just kind of drop it off and let the mail run through its normal system. The postmark day may not be for a couple of days later. So last on my list of things that I wanted to talk to y'all about this morning is the bond pilot program for visitor visas from certain countries. US Department of State, rather, sorry, not USCIS, Department of State has a pilot bond program where individuals traveling from certain countries to the US on visitor visas, so B1, B2s, must pay a bond of either $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000, and then they receive that money back once they leave the US and show proof that they've left the US. Couple things about this. So they started off with a limited number of airports that you could enter and exit under this bond program. They have extended that list of airports. Those airports are Boston Logan, JFK out of New York, Washington Dulles out of DC, Newark Liberty out of New Jersey, Toronto Pearson, Montreal Trudeau, LAX out of Los Angeles, Chicago O'Hare out of obviously Chicago, and Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta out of Georgia. So those are the very limited scope airports that if you were subject to this bond where you have to fly in and out of. You can certainly transfer once you get into the US to a different airport if one of these cities is not your end destination, but you must enter and exit the US through one of these particular airports. And the list of countries that is subject to this pilot program, they've added several more countries to be effective January 21st. Some were effective October 23rd, others were effective August 20th of last year. But we've got a slew more countries. I'm not going to sit here and read all of them to you. If you want that list, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to send it to you. But in general, all of the countries are located in either they're African nations, they are some Asian nations, they are a handful of Caribbean nations, one South American nation, which is Venezuela, and I think 3 or 4 Pacific Island nations. But the lion's share of the countries that are subject to this pilot program are in Africa and Asia. So that is all I have for y'all this Monday morning. If you have any questions about H-1B, lottery season, your employment-based visas, how do you get people on board and hired? How do you get them their correct visa authorization? Things like that, feel free to reach out to my office. We are happy to help you. Have a great Monday and a wonderful rest of your week.